Hey, Kevin Rundlett with Rundlett Law Firm. Our firm has been representing injured Mississippians for over 20 years, and we're putting out these videos related to workers' compensation cases to help people who may have been injured on the job and just have questions. Most of the time these videos are coming from questions that actual clients have asked us. So today we're going to be talking about the two broad categories of injuries in a workers' comp case. Obviously, you can have hundreds of different types of injuries in a workers' comp case, but generally there are two very broad categories and they're handled slightly differently. One is called a scheduled member case and one is called a body as a whole case. So first of all, let's talk about scheduled members and what that is. A scheduled member would be an injury to a body part that you don't necessarily need to survive, as opposed to a body as a whole injury would be an injury to a body part that most of the time is something you need to survive and function. So an example of each: a scheduled member injury could be an injury to a finger, to your hand, to your arm, foot, leg, ear, anything like that. A body as a whole injury is generally categorized as an injury to your head, your spine, something that is just absolutely necessary. So how are these cases handled? What's the difference? So with a scheduled member, there is actually a chart that is put out by the Mississippi Workers' Compensation Commission. You can go to their website and you can find this easily on their chart. I'm going to attach this to this video so you can see how this chart works, and I've got a copy right here. So for instance, the first scheduled member that's listed on this chart is your arm. So if your arm is injured, what are you entitled to for wage benefits? Well, you're entitled to up to 200 weeks of pay at your workers' compensation rate. What is your workers' compensation rate? It's an average of the last 52 weeks that you've worked and what you've earned per week, and then it's multiplied by 2 and divided by 3. So the workers' comp benefits that you would get if you were injured and treating and your insurance company is paying for those benefits, this is what they will be sending you. It's called total temporary disability benefits. So there's a leg listed on here where you get 175 weeks for the leg. But you don't necessarily get the entire number of weeks. So I'll walk you through a little example of what happens. Let's say that your arm, which is worth 200 weeks, it's worth 200 weeks if you basically lose your arm, meaning you're 100% disabled for your arm, or you have an 100% impairment rating for your entire arm. Most of the time that doesn't happen. So if you broke your arm and you had to have surgery, after you got done treating with that injury, your doctor's probably going to say, okay, I think you're good to go back to work. However, I think you have a 10% impairment rating to your arm based upon this injury. Now that's a 10% medical impairment rating. So if you just took that impairment rating multiplied by your workers' compensation pay rate times 200 weeks for the arm, but then you have to multiply it by the impairment rating, which is, if the doctor said 10%, you have to multiply it by just 10% of whatever that is. The reason that they do it this way is because the scheduled member injuries are considered injuries that you're going to make a recovery from. You're going to get back to work. But they understand if there's some impairment to that member, then you should get something, because it may affect you with how you go forward in life, with jobs you may not be able to get, or certain things you may not be able to do because of that impairment. That's a scheduled member. It's set a little bit more in stone. However, there's arguments we can make where when the doctor says, okay, I think you're 10% medically impaired with that arm, well, what if you have to constantly lift stuff over your head at your job and you just can't do that anymore? Well, functionally, it may be more like a 40% impairment. And functionally, I mean, how does that actually affect you in your work? So that's where your attorney may come in arguing, well, look, he's got to do this for his job and he can't anymore, so that medical impairment rating should be higher. That all comes at the end with settlement. So that's a scheduled member injury. It doesn't really matter what jobs you can and can't get. It doesn't matter if your employer has fired you or if you're still working for them. That scheduled number of weeks is there. The argument comes with, well, what is the percentage of impairment for this individual? Now let's move over to the body as a whole injury. The body as a whole injury is automatically thrown into what is called a 450-week category. That's the max number of weeks that a workers' comp insurance company has to pay for that claim if you're permanently and totally disabled. So what does that mean? That means you can't go get a job anywhere else. You can't continue to do the job that you were doing. In another video, we've talked about the importance of a job search. The job search would come into play with a body as a whole injury. That's the only proof that the court wants to see as to how your ability to earn wages has been affected. So we have scheduled members and we have body as a whole injuries. Now, sometimes a scheduled member can be shifted over into the 450-week category. It gets a little complicated and it's more than we want to get into in this video. If you have questions about that, feel free to call us or talk to your attorney about it. So I hope this helps clarify a little bit about the two broad categories in a workers' comp case. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have and you want to see more content in the future, just hit that subscribe button. Thank you.